George, you'll have to unmute yourself.
My name's George. I'm an addict.
Hey, George.
Hey, George.
Good morning. Welcome to GRCNA 39.5 New Possibilities Arise, the Sunday morning speaker meeting. My name is George D. I am an addict. Welcome to the GRCNA 39.5 New Possibilities Arise, and welcome to our Sunday morning closing speaker meeting. Regarding anonymity, when joining a virtual meeting, you will need to keep your video turned off to guarantee your anonymity. If you turn your video on, you're choosing to be seen by the other participants. You can also change your name or switch to first name plus last initial to protect your identity. Let's open with a moment of silence followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept
the things I cannot change,
the courage
to change the things
that I can,
and the wisdom
to know the difference.
Welcome to the Georgia Region's first virtual convention, GRCNA 39.5 New Possibilities Arise. Our attention for the first virtual convention has been to make available to our fellowship a weekend of recovery, celebration, and fun. We hope that all addicts have received the NA message of recovery while they have participated in this event. It is our hope that the message we carry may truly let everyone know that NA is a place to recover and that no addict seeking recovery need die from the disease of addiction. Meeting participation guidelines. Please dress appropriately on camera. Please keep your microphone on mute unless you are asked to unmute by the host or co-host. If you have a question or need general assistance during the workshop, please contact the host or one of the co-hosts via direct message in chat. I have asked for volunteers for our readings. Who is an addict? Do we have a volunteer to read Who is an Addict?
I'm Teresa Maddox.
Hey, Teresa.
Hey, Teresa.
Who is an addict? Most of us do not have to think twice about this question. We know our whole life and thinking was centered in drugs in one form or another, the getting and using and finding ways and means to get more. We live to use and use to live. Very simply, an addict is a man or woman whose life is controlled by drugs. We are people in the grip of a continued and progressive illness whose ends are always the same: jail, institution, and death. Thanks.
Thanks, Teresa. Someone is going to read what is the Narcotics Anonymous program?
Hey, my name is Willie.
Hey, Willie.
Hey,
What is the Narcotics Anonymous program? NA is a non-profit fellowship of society of men and women for whom drugs has become a major problem. We are recovering addicts who meet regularly to help each other stay clean. This is a program of complete abstinence from all drugs. There is only one requirement for membership: the desire to stop using. We suggest that you keep an open mind and give yourself a break. Our program is set as a principle written so simply that we can follow them in our daily lives. The most important things about them is that they work. There are no strings attached to NA. We are not affiliated with any other organization. We have no initiation fees or dues, no pledges or to sign, no promises to make to anyone. We are not connected with any political, religious, or law enforcement groups and are under no surveillance at any time. Anyone who may join us, regardless of age, race, sexual identity, creed, religion, or lack of religion. We are not interested in what or how much you use or who you connected, who your connections were. what you have done in the past, how much or how little you have, but only that you want to do about you. But only in what you want to do about your problem and how we can help. The newcomer is the most important person at any meeting because we can only keep what we have by giving it away. We have learned from our group experience that those who keep clean, who keep coming to our meetings regularly, stay clean.
Thank you.
Thank you, Willie.
Ask someone to read Why Are We Here?
Go
Hey
ahead.
family, I'm Zena and I'm an addict.
Hey, Zena.
Zena.
Hey family, why are we here? Before coming to the fellowship of NA, we could not manage our own lives. We could not live and enjoy life as other people do. We had to have something different, and we thought we had found it in drugs. We placed their use ahead of the welfare of our families, our wives, husbands, and our children. We had to have drugs at all costs. We did many people great harm, but most of all, we harmed ourselves. Through our inability to accept personal responsibilities, we were actually creating our own problems. We seemed to be incapable of facing life on its own terms. Most of us realized that in our addiction, we were slowly committing suicide. But addiction is such a cunning enemy of life that we had lost the power to do anything about it. Many of us ended up in jail or sought help through medicine, religion, and psychiatry. None of these methods were sufficient for us. Our disease always resurfaced or continued to progress until in desperation, we sought help from each other in Narcotics Anonymous. After coming to NA, we realized we were sick people. We suffer from a disease from which there is no known cure. It can, however, be arrested at some point, and recovery is then possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Zena.
George, Billy, and Ray have volunteered to do readings.
Okay. How it works?
Billy, you want to do that one?
Okie dokie. My name is Billy and I'm an addict. Good morning.
Good morning.
How it works. If you want what we have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. These are the principles that made our recovery possible. 1, we admitted that we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, we humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to addicts and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Okay, this sounds like a big order. We can't do it all at once. We didn't become addicted in one day. So remember, easy does it. There is one thing more than anything else that will defeat us in our recovery. This is an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles. 3 of these that are indispensable are honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. With these, we are well on our way. We feel that our approach to the disease of addiction is completely realistic, for the therapeutic value of one addict helping another is without parallel. We feel that our way is practical, for one addict can best understand and help another addict. We believe that the sooner we face our problems within our society, in everyday living, just that much faster do we become acceptable, responsible, and productive members of that society. The only way to keep from returning to active addiction is not to take that first drug. If you're like us, you know that one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. We put great emphasis on this, for we know that when we use drugs in any form or substitute one for another, we release our addiction all over again. Thinking of alcohol as different from other drugs has caused a great many addicts to relapse. Before we came to NA, many of us viewed alcohol separately, but we cannot afford to be confused about this. Alcohol is a drug. We are people with a disease of addiction who must abstain from all drugs in order to recover.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Welcome,
Beverly.
y'all.
The 12 traditions of NA.
Go ahead, Ray.
Thanks. Hey, my name's Ray. I'm a grateful recovering addict.
Hey, Ray.
These are the 12 traditions of NA. We keep what we have only with vigilance, and just as freedom for the individual comes from the 12 steps, so freedom for the group springs from our traditions. As long as the ties that bind us together are stronger than those that would tear us apart, all will be well. 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on NA unity. 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3, the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or NA as a whole. 5, each group has but one primary purpose, to carry the message to the addict who still suffers. 6, an NA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the NA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, or prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7, every NA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8, Narcotics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9, NA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10, Narcotics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the NA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12, anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. Understanding these traditions comes slowly over a period of time. We pick up information as we talk to members and visit various groups. It usually isn't until we get involved with service that someone points out that personal recovery depends on NA unity, and that unity depends on how well we follow our traditions. 12 traditions of NA are not negotiable. They are the guidelines that keep our fellowship alive and free. By following these guidelines in our dealings with others and society at large, we avoid many problems. That is not to say that our traditions eliminate all problems. We still have to face difficulties as they arise: communication problems, differences of opinion, internal controversies, and troubles with individuals and groups outside the fellowship. However, when we apply these principles, we avoid some of the pitfalls. Many of our problems are like those that our predecessors had to face. Their hard-won experience gave birth to the traditions, and our own experience has shown that these principles are just as valid today as they were when these traditions were formulated. Our traditions protect us from the internal and external forces that could destroy us. They are truly the ties that bind us together. It is only through understanding and application that they work. Thanks for letting me read.
Thank you, Ray.
Someone's going to read just for today.
I'm Leanne, I can read it.
Hey, Lee.
I'm Leanne, I'm an addict. Just for today, tell yourself, just for today, my thoughts will be on my recovery, living and enjoying life without the use of drugs. Just for today, I will have faith in someone in NA who believes in me and wants to help me in my recovery. Just for today, I will have a program. I will try to follow it to the best of my ability. Just for today, through NA, I will try to get a better perspective on life. Just for today, I will be unafraid. My thoughts will be on my new associations, people who are not using, who have found a new way of life. So long as I follow that way, I have nothing to fear.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne.
Someone's going to read We Do Recover.
I'm Pat, I'm an addict.
Hey, Pat.
We
Hey,
do
Pat.
recover. When at the end of the road, we find that we can no longer function as a human being, either with or without drugs, we all face the same dilemma. What is there left to do? There seems to be this alternative, either go on as best we can to the bitter ends, jails, institutions, or death, or find a new way to live. In years gone by, very few addicts ever had this last choice. Those who are addicted today are more fortunate. For the first time in man's entire history, a simple way has been proving itself in the lives of many addicts. It is available to us all. This is a simple, spiritual, not religious program known as Narcotics Anonymous.
Thank you, Pat. Thanks for everybody that read this morning. My name's George. I'm an addict.
Hey, George.
At this time, I'd like to take a moment and thank the CPP and the BOD of the state of Georgia for working so tirelessly on this incredible experience of GRCNA 98.5 this weekend. The amount of work that they have done to go into this is amazing. I'd like to reach out to anybody that is interested in doing service and tell them to jump on board. You know, these people don't realize what it takes, what an undertaking this is, and what it takes to put on GRCNA when it's live, or what it takes to put on the first virtual convention. So I'd like to say thank you. You know, these people give years of their lives to do service to carry to the message to the addict. And it's been an incredible weekend for me. I've heard an amazing message, and I want to just say thank you to GRCNA and to the BOD for all the hard work. This morning I have the incredible opportunity to introduce a fellow friend and addict of mine. Years ago, back in the year 2000, when there was something called a live NA meeting at my home group in North Atlanta in Virginia Highlands at the Clean Air Act at Church of Our Savior, this young gentleman that I had never seen before showed up at our home group. He was from New York, and everybody knows that I'm in the hair business and go to my salon and pick up the Town and Country, and it's like, gosh, that's that guy from Buffalo, New York that was in our home group this week. So I go back and I say, Chris, is this you? And he looked at me like, yeah, that's me. Did you not know that? And that was the introduction to me with Chris T. Chris sponsored me for probably 5-6 years. Chris was there for me, and you know, I'm an addict that it took me a minute to start waking up, and Chris was there when I had 5 years, and gave me a safe place to work the step, to work the steps, to introduce me to the steps and the traditions. He made me realize how safe it is that a heterosexual man can sponsor a gay man without any judgment at all. He's taught me a lot about carrying the message in a home group, about sharing on the message. He's taught me about patience when it's in a home group business meeting, about negotiating the clarity statement. I was at Piedmont Hospital when both of his daughters were born, and was able to go to Houston's and pick up food for he and his wife. And he's a huge part of my recovery. I don't see him a lot, but I have had when everything started going down with the pandemic, he was one of the first people to call and check on me. I've enjoyed our conversations that we've had lately. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce one of the biggest characters in NA, one of the biggest messes in NA. He has a birthday next Wednesday and he'll be 51 years old. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Chris T.
Thank you very much, George. I very much appreciate that introduction. Good morning. Happy Sunday, everyone. My name's Chris Thrasher. I'm a person in long-term recovery, sometimes referred to as an addict. I want to take a moment of silence. Let us remember why we're here this morning. Let's have that moment now. I've only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it, didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give an account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. You know, this last year, I think COVID-19, for me anyway, has reemphasized just how precious each minute is. And that was 60 seconds. I go to so many meetings where people will say, let's have a moment of silence followed by the Serenity Prayer. God, and I don't have a time to take a deep breath. I don't have a time to settle down and settle in. And so I take a moment because if you think about how long that moment felt, and then think about today, if you've been clean all this morning, you've been clean a long time. That's a lot of moments. Now just multiply that times maybe 30 days, 10 days, 5 days, 5 years, 10 years. It's a long time. So eternity is in it, and I agree with that. I want to thank the convention committee for asking me to speak here. It's, as Benji said, it's great to be asked to speak at any convention, and I've had the opportunity to do it a good handful of times, but it's a very special thing to be asked to be, to share your story with your hometown team, with the Georgia region, which is where I've called home for the last 21 years. But this is a celebration of recovery, as George said, and a lot of work went into this. And so thank you to everyone to put all these hours in. It means a lot to all of us. I always preface my shares by saying, listen, if you like what I have to say, I can't take credit for it because I just heard it at another meeting. But on the flip side of that same coin, if you don't like what I have to say, it's not my fault because I heard it from someone else. So blame them, don't blame me. And here's the thing. This isn't the first time that I've talked to myself, staring at myself like on the screen. So you're lucky for that because I'm used to talking to myself. But it is a little surreal doing this virtually. There was a time in my recovery when I used to be able to, share my whole using recovery and, the whole kind of story in like 45 minutes. Today, it's more about sort of reflections of my recovery journey over the last 31 years. But I truly believe, And you'll hear me share often that I think it's difficult to come up with the words to express some of the stuff that I've experienced. You know, it's like lacking a language for this type of stuff, and it's difficult. But, you know, the truth is that I don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to talk about using. I had one blackout while I was using. It was the 1980s. That was it. And, you know, truth is that I don't think war stories do us any good. And I say the truth because when I was using, I told so many lies that I'm honestly not sure what is true and what's a lie. So I try to steer away from that. There is one story from using that I often tell when I speak because I remember it. It was towards the end of my using, and I'll never forget. And let me just say this also, my little ADD brain is firing. My mother is actually on this meeting. There's going to be some things that you've probably never heard, Mom, so buckle in. But that's just like the warning. But she lived it. She lived my addiction with me, so I'm not afraid to share my truth. I was sitting down in my parents' house. I was about 19 years old, and there was a story on the 11 p.m. news that said major crack epidemic happening in Niagara Falls. And the newscasters actually gave the cross streets of where this terrible thing was happening. And I immediately, my ears perked right up, and I remembered those cross streets. And the next morning I went in and I bought a map. This is before cell phones and GPS and Waze and all that, right? This is in the 80s. So I bought a map, and I couldn't read real well, but I learned how to read that day because I matched up the longitude and latitude of the cross streets that they did. And I grabbed a buddy and we got in my car, you know, no insurance, no registration, just the car, right? I didn't need tags or any of that stuff, but I drove right into Niagara Falls, and I went right to that corner that they said there's a big problem. And I got to that corner, and sure enough, there were some people out on the corner, and they were, you know, selling their thing. And so we gave them $80. Never forget it, $80. And I drove away real nervous. You know, the hair on the back of your neck stands up, and the guy sitting next to me said, whoa, hold on. I said, what? He said, man, this is Ivory soap. I said, what? I said, are you sure? He said, man, smell it. I smelled it, and sure enough, it was Ivory soap. So we looked at each other, and I said, well, put it in the pipe. Let's smoke it. And he was like, seriously? I was like, yeah, man, because if this gets us high, we could go get a bunch of this stuff, like, you know, at the store. Well, I'm here to tell you, it doesn't get you high. Ivory soap does not get you high. In fact, it fucks up your crack pipe. Bad. So don't do the Ivory soap thing. Learn from me. You know, we say we learn from people's mistakes, right? I did that, so you don't have to. But, you know, I had a PhD in using. I took my job very seriously. It was a full-time job, right? I knew which cops worked which shifts, what car numbers they were in, you know, how to avoid. I took it seriously. I was arrested many times, but I was never arrested for drugs until this one particular day when I sort of let my guard down. I didn't have my spider senses tingling, and I was driving down the road in this little town that I lived in, and I saw this cop pull out of the cop station. My, you know, sort of radar went up, and within less than 60 seconds, he had sort of blocked me in and jumped out of his car and jumped in my car. And I had just copped, and I had a lot of stuff on me. And he jumped in my car, and this whole struggle began to ensue. And the guy sitting next to me that was in the passenger seat, now I'm in the middle seat, he's in the passenger seat, and the cop's in the driver's seat. And he's, you know, and I'm trying to get all the stuff out of my pockets and jam it down the seat like that's going to make a difference. And he's trying to rip my hands out. And finally, he pulls my hand out just as I had tucked it all in the seat. And I showed him my hand. I said, see, I don't have anything. And he ripped me out of that car so hard. He put handcuffs on me that day so hard that I cried. I had had handcuffs on me plenty of times. I had never had handcuffs on me that tight. I never knew you could put handcuffs on someone so tight that it would make you cry. I cried from the pain. I couldn't sit down. That's how bad the handcuffs were. I couldn't sit down. It hurt so bad. He threw me in the back of the car. And see, I was on probation. I had some ACDs against me. I mean, I had a lot of stuff against me that was all going to come up now, plus this. I knew I was going away. There was no question in my mind. And I knew I was going away for a good chunk of time based on what I had in the car. And I laid in the back of that car, and I knew it couldn't get any worse than it was at that very moment. Nothing he said to me could have made it any worse than what I was dealing with. And I laid in the back of that car just thinking about my future behind bars. And I'll never forget thinking to myself, my life could not get any worse than it is right now. And he got back in the car, and he had my drugs with him. And he looked at me through that cage that separates the front seat from the back seat. And he looked right in, and he looked at me in my eyes, and he said, "Now we got you, nigger." And right then and there, it just got worse. Tears began streaming down my face because I knew there was nothing I could say to get back at him. And I remember him putting me in the jail, and the last thing he did was he slammed the door. He said, "You don't know how long I've been waiting to do this." And he slammed the door. And a couple weeks later, I went to court, and on this particular night, my dad always used to go to court with me. But this particular night, my mom, who's on this Zoom call, went to court because my dad was out of town. He was working. My mom never went to court. And it was towards the end of the roster, and they called me up, and I was in front of the judge. My lawyer was standing next to me. And my mom was in the back of the courtroom. She'll remember this well. And the judge stopped what he was doing after he read all my charges, 4 felonies and 3 misdemeanors. And he said, "Mrs. Thrasher, I see you in the back of the courtroom. This is your son up here. You must be proud of the job you did raising him. What an upstanding young man you have in front of you. Are you proud of the job you did?" And she was crying. I could hear her audibly crying, and I felt nothing. I literally remember looking over my shoulder thinking, what are you crying about? I'm the one that's ready to go away. Total self-centeredness, the inability to feel. That's what addiction is for me. And so somehow my lawyer was able to have the judge adjourn it till the regular judge that was assigned to my case was back. And in that intermittent time, my dad went to the judge and worked out a deal to see if he would let me adjourn it for 90 days, let them adjourn it for 90 days so I could go to a rehab. Now this is back, I had never heard of AA, NA, rehab, 12 steps. It wasn't the common thing that it is now. My dad came to me with a pamphlet, and he held the pamphlet up to me and he said, "Look at this pamphlet." And there was a kid on there downhill skiing, like skiing down a mountain. And he said, "If you go to this place, I think I can get you out of your 4 felonies and 3 misdemeanors." That's all I needed to hear. I didn't read the pamphlet. I just saw a kid skiing. I thought, you're going to send me out west to Montana. I'm going to go downhill skiing, and I'm going to get out of 4 felonies and 3 misdemeanors. I was like, sign me up. I'm in. So he signed me up. Well, little did I know that I was signing up for this little dude ranch in Marion, Montana, 50 miles south of the Canadian border, with the closest payphone being 6 miles away. I had no intention of quitting. I took drugs with me. That's right, I took drugs with me to rehab, enough to make it the 60 days. In fact, when I was on the plane, this is before 9/11, you could kind of bring whatever you wanted on the plane. I took my winter coat and I opened up the seam at the bottom. I had never picked up a needle or a thread. I didn't know how to sew, but I taught myself that day on the plane how to sew, because I opened up the seam, I put all my drugs in the stuffing of the coat, and I stitched it right back up. When I landed in Montana, I got to the rehab, and I remember getting in with the other kids in there, and I was like, "Listen, I got some. I'll share it with you." I was a nice guy. That's what I thought. I had no idea that I was like getting the clients that had been working with over the last how many days, months, just completely decimating their efforts. Here, I thought I was doing them a favor, I used drugs for about the first 50 days there. And then we went out on what's called our solo, where you have to go survive out in the wilderness. They give you a blue tarp, a bag of Gorp, which is granola, oatmeal, raisins, and peanuts, and a couple of number 2 pencils and a pad of paper. It's time to do your inventory. And I was out in Glacier National Park where one night it got 37 degrees below zero. 35 was what our sleeping bags were good for, 35 below. So they had to come out and check on us. I still had drugs with me. I had a little bit left. I had them in my flashlight. And I thought to myself, at that point, I had a few days clean. And I thought to myself, well, geez, if I use these drugs right now, I'm going to give up this clean time. For the first time, I was like, well, I'm going to give something up. I don't know if I want to do that. But I had enough disease in me that I was able to rationalize and justify the most outrageous sort of nonsense, as we say in our second step. And that outrageous nonsense told me that, well, this is a reservation. You might as well use now because you only have a few days clean now. And if you waited till longer, you'd be giving up more time. So just give up this little bit of time. Well, that made sense to me, so I used. But for the first time, I didn't like the way it made me feel. And I remember praying, let this be done. I don't want to feel this way anymore. And the next morning I woke up and I still had a little left. And this is the first spiritual awakening. And like I say, we lack a language. It's hard to put into words what happened, but I remember waking up and taking the drugs with me and walking down to the stream where we could get fresh water about 15 yards down from my little igloo that I had built. And I hit my knees for the first time. And I watched this water come down this stream, and there's a big rock in the middle. I can see it like it was yesterday. And I remember exactly what I said. I said, God, I don't know if you exist. I don't know what you are, who you are, what to call you. But if you're out there, please help me never use a mind-changing, mood-altering substance again. See, that's the word they taught me in rehab. I didn't know that word. And I took it and I threw it in the stream and I watched it float down. That was on December 16th, 1989. My clean date is December 17th, 1989. And I will tell you, when I got out of rehab, well, as I was getting out of rehab, they do this little ceremony where they pass a medallion around and they all say a nice word or two about you, all the patients that are in and the other counselors, and then your primary counselor sits right in your right. He gives it to you, and then you take it and you get in the van waiting outside and you go to the airport. Everybody lives happily ever after, right? Well, I hated the rehab and I hated the people in it. So as the medallion was going around, they were saying, oh, Chris, you haven't changed a damn bit. You're not going to stay clean. We already know that. And I was like, all these people saying this stuff, it didn't matter because I had this whole plan. I was going to take the medallion when they handed it to me and I was going to throw it across the room. I like being really dramatic, as George said. I love drama, especially when I'm the center of it. So I was going to take this medallion and I was going to throw it across the room and go, I don't need your fucking medallion. That's exactly what I was going to say. I was ready to say it. And it got all the way around and they're saying all this stuff about it. You're not going to make it. I would wish you luck, but luck has nothing to do with it. And it got to my primary counsel. I was like, oh, just give me the medallion so I can throw and make a big scene. And he held the medallion and he said, you really haven't changed and this and that. And he said, we're going to do something that we've never done with any of our patients before today. He said, we're not going to give you your medallion. I was like, what? Oh, no, we're not going to give you your medallion. He said, but if you're still clean in 90 days, you call us and we'll send it to you. All of a sudden, I wanted that medallion. It was the craziest thing. On day 89, I called him at midnight. And you know what he said? He said, it's only 9 p.m. out here on the West Coast. You still got 3 hours. Call back tomorrow. I called back that next day. They sent me the medallion. I still have that medallion, and now I cherish it. So when I got clean, I was a 9th grade high school dropout. At my first meeting, I remember Rick coming up to me and saying, what's your wildest dream, Chris? I said, my wildest dream is to get a GED. That's easy. I just want to get a GED. Well, my story goes from the crack house to the White House, and I'll fill you in on some of those details as I explain, kind of the progression of my recovery. But, our symbol is what it is all about for me today in my recovery, because our symbol equals balance, right? God, self, society, and service. So I try to have balance in my life. I try to have a little bit of God, a little bit of self, a little bit of society, a little bit of service. I try to have balance. But, a lot of people don't understand the difference between AA and NA. They think that, it's just, it's all the 12 steps, we're all the same. Well, there's an intro in our basic text that I think says it very, very clearly. It's before the pages are numbered. And I'm going to read it from our text. It says, the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous, as adapted from AA, are the basis of our recovery program. We've only broadened their perspective. We follow the same path with a single exception. Our identifications as addicts is all-inclusive with respect to any mood-changing, mind-altering substance. Alcoholism is too limited a term for us. Our problem is not a specific substance. It is a disease called addiction. I know our logo, God, Self, Society, and Service. I know our slogan. It's just for today. It's not one day at a time. One day at a time actually says nothing about today. You know, it reminds me of this joke that I often tell. There's an addict and an alcoholic, and they're sitting on this park bench, and this really hot girl walks by, and the alcoholic says, man, I'd like to screw her. And the addict says, out of what? You know, we think differently. Addicts are hardwired to think of like doom and gloom, the best, the biggest, the most. If you give me 2, I want more. I want 4, like Benji said. If 1 is good, then 2 must be better. I read the side of the Advil. It says take 1. I said, well, then let me take 2. That's how I used. They said, make sure you only do half of this. Just cut it in half. Well, that meant take 2. Because that's how I used. That was what my addiction. Man, I work in substance use disorders. Do you know right now in treatment centers, I was just talking to a treatment center, and you know what? They said, we're finally starting to see people now come in, scares the shit out of us. Their drug of choice is fentanyl. And I think to myself, how does someone have a drug of choice that lethal? Kills people. Well, I remember when I used, I didn't want anything cut with anything. Of course, I looked for the most pure of everything that I was doing. It makes perfect sense if you're an addict. Of course you want the best. People are dying. Left and right. 85,000 people in 1 year to substance use disorders, drug overdoses. 85,000 people. Think of that Mercedes-Benz Stadium packed to the rafters, plus 10,000. All of them dead within 1 year. This disease is killing us. Our message is hope, and that has not changed, but hope has changed me. Many years ago, I decided to put pen to paper and decide what hope really meant, and I wanted to write about it. Because when you say hope, everyone nods their head and says, oh, yeah, I know what hope is. Yeah, hope. But I'll bet you for all the number of people on this meeting, there is that many definitions of hope. And see, for me, I made hope into an acronym, and I decided that the H was for health. And that's physical health. Like, when I got clean, brushing my teeth was a big deal. Taking a shower was a big deal. These are things that I didn't do. I never went to the dentist, let alone brush my teeth. Mental health. We don't talk about mental health enough. I used because I'm mentally ill. That's why I used. I used to stop feeling. We need to talk about mental health more. Spiritual health. Oh, this is a spiritual program, not a religious one. Well, in the definition I almost said in the Bible. In the dictionary, it says religion is a set of beliefs. NA is my religion. There's a set of beliefs in here that I subscribe to. That might offend some, but I'm not saying it to offend people. I'm just saying it's language, it's words. Sexual health. We don't talk about sexual health. I know people that have gotten HIV clean, knowing how to protect themselves. We are the chosen ones. I think to myself, man, I've been chosen. I've been given this amazing opportunity to be in recovery. I need to take care of myself, my physical health, my mental health, my spiritual health, my sexual health. But recovery is like sex. If it doesn't feel good, you're not doing it right. Recovery feels good all the time. No matter even if I'm going through pain, it feels good. Remember I told you at that meeting, I want to talk about service for a second because service is a huge part of my recovery. And I'll never forget at my first meeting, they said they needed a coffee maker, and I didn't drink coffee. I gave up coffee. I've not had a cup of coffee in recovery, 31 plus years. I gave it up because I used coffee to change the way I felt. So I lumped it in with cigarettes and meat and bunch of other shit. Anyway, they said, Chris, will you be coffee maker? I said, I don't drink coffee. Caffeine's a drug. Oh, they said, oh, well, then you're definitely the coffee maker. So I said, okay, I could play that game. So I came back the next week. I showed up early and I got the coffee out. They told me 1 styrofoam cup in the basket. That's how you do it, right? So I took like 3 or 4 because if 1 is good, then 3 must be better, right? And I packed that coffee in that basket right up to the top. I packed it in there. I was going to make them hit a bottom with this caffeine. So I put it in there and I brewed the coffee and I'm just waiting for people to like, you know, start puking on the table. And they start drinking this coffee and I'll never forget, Chris Bush goes, who made the coffee tonight? And I said, I did, because I thought, you know, people were going to go, you're fired. They said, this is the best coffee we've ever had. You're permanent coffee maker. So my plan, once again, it backfired. Here I'm thinking, you know, my best thinking got me 4 felonies and 3 misdemeanors. My best thinking doesn't work. So I need to change the way I think. I need to change the process in how I make decisions. You know, I'm no better than or worse than anyone else. You know, I always say be nice to the newcomer because they might sponsor you one day. We're all the same length away from that next fix, pill, drink, drug. You know, we all have just today. That's why we say just for today. You know, I've had the opportunity to travel the world with my job and go to meetings out of state and out of the country, many different countries, and almost all the states in the United States I've been to meetings in. And I love out-of-town meetings because I don't know them. I don't know the people in those meetings. I often say that like one of my biggest defects of character is judging. I judge everyone. In my home group, oh man, I judge them all. Everyone. I just go right around the room. I'm like, she fucks newcomers. He doesn't work the steps. She doesn't have a sponsor. You don't even own a basic text. You know, and guess what happens? I close my mind and I don't hear the message because I'm too caught up with the messenger. God forbid I actually look at myself and what I do, right? I love telling you what your problems are. If you only knew the crazy shit I've done. So, you know, for me, it's about trying to just get out of yourself, out of myself. But when I go to out-of-town meetings, I don't know who's fucking the newcomer. I don't know who works the steps. And I always come back to town and I'm like, man, you should see the meetings out there in San Diego, California. They're amazing. Well, that's just because I didn't judge anyone and I actually heard the actual message of Narcotics Anonymous that an addict, any addict, can stop using, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. That's a big deal. Well, you know, this is a self-help program. No one's going to do this for me. My grandma Ryan always used to say, Chris, God will move mountains for you, but you have to bring the shovel. I've been bringing the shovel for the last 31 plus years, and the work hasn't ended. I have a lot more. I'm a work in progress. But I also think that coincidences are God's way of remaining anonymous. I don't think there's any such thing as a coincidence. I have too many of them happen in my life to just chalk them all up to coincidence. I think it's my higher power working in my life. You know, I'm one of those guys that I really believe that this program is all about the steps and the traditions. You know, I know that I have to work the steps. I have to work the traditions because if nothing changes, my clean date will. You know, if I don't change, my clean date will. So I got to stay 12 steps ahead of my disease. And that's how I try to do it, you know. People often ask me, they'll say, Chris, you know, you've been clean like 31. Why do you, these are people out of the program typically, but they say, why do you still go to those meetings? Well, here it is. This disease is a disease of total self-centeredness. So for me, the most self-centered thing that I could do would be to stop coming to meetings. Stop coming back, you know. Keep coming back is for real. Not just for you, but for the newcomer that comes in behind you. Because someone was there when I came in. Someone was there when I walked into my first meeting that showed me the way. So it's my responsibility to give what was so freely given to me. So that's why I keep coming back, because I need the help for me, because I'm a work in progress, but I also need to show others that it does work. And it does, if you work it. You know, I have some hopes. I mean, listen, when I got clean, you couldn't find a non-smoking meeting. They were all smoking meetings. I think I'm still going to die of secondhand smoke inhalation because for the first 5 years of my recovery, I smoked like, you know, I mean, I didn't smoke, but by going to meetings, I smoked. It was all fucking, you couldn't see across the room at most NA meetings by the end of the meeting. Just chain smoking. And I sat there as my reformed non-smoker hacking it up. Man, but in addition to non-smoking meetings, because now, you know, I love the fact that you can go to meetings and not have to breathe that shit in. But you know what the new cigarette, you know what the new smoke in meetings is? Are cell phones. You know, people sit on those cell phones and they're completely checked out, you know. So just the way we have non-smoking meetings, it would be my dream to have no cell phone meetings. You know, leave it in your pocket. Be here now. 60 minutes. That's all I'm asking, 60 minutes. I have to ask myself, can you stay off your phone for 60 minutes? I know it's hard. But, you know, in our 12 steps and 12 traditions, which I kind of want to run through now, it says right at the top of our how it works, it said, if you want what we have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. These are the principles that made our recovery possible. These are the principles that made our recovery possible. People will often say, what's the spiritual principle in the 7th step? I say the whole 7th step. They said, no, isn't it humility? You know, what's the spiritual principle in the 1st step? Honesty? No, I say the whole 1st step. It says these are the principles that made our recovery possible. Then it lists them 1 through 12. The whole step is a spiritual principle. I mean, I can be cute and boil it down to one word if I want, but the truth is the whole step is spiritual and the whole step is a principle. You know, the 12 steps and 12 traditions take time to work. It took me 7 years to get through all 12 steps and 12 traditions, but it's the foundation of my recovery. You know, time I heard at a meeting once, things I must earn, you know, and that's true. It takes time. My sponsor told me, he said, Chris, when you get to the end, you know what we do? I said, what? He goes, we go back to the beginning. So it's not a race. Take your time. So I've taken my time. And that's how I work it with my sponsees, some of which are on this call today. And by the way, to my sponsees, I thank you. You've kept me clean over this last year. We have sponsorship support group every Monday through Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock on Zoom, just our sponsorship support group. And that has kept me clean. Staying connected locally. See, Zoom provides both an opportunity and a challenge. The opportunity is you get to Zoom all over the country and all over the world for meetings whenever you want. The challenge is, are you staying connected to your local support group? Do people know where you're at? The people that saw you at every meeting when you would go to 3-4 meetings a week, do they know where you're at? Have you checked in with them? What's NA going to look like after COVID is over? Are we still going to be connected like we were? Is the fellowship going to look the same? These are the things that keep me up at night. These are the things that I worry about. I worry about that. So as soon as COVID happened, I said to my sponsees, let's start meeting Monday, you know, every night, 8 o'clock. Let's stay connected. We started out at 5 days a week. We did that for a few months, and then we realized COVID isn't going anywhere. We backed it off to 3 days a week. But we've been doing 3 days a week for the last year. We stay connected. The steps and the traditions help me stay connected to myself. Going to meetings help me stay connected to the fellowship. The fellowship and the program are two totally different things. The fellowship has let me down, and I have let you down as a member of this fellowship. You've called me, and I haven't called you back. I've told you I'd make it to a meeting someplace, and I didn't show up. You know, the fellowship has let me down, but NA has never let me down. The program, the collective experience, our literature, the things that make up the program. We're human. I'm a human. I'm a member of the fellowship. I make mistakes. I still lie sometimes. I do crazy stuff, but I'm a work in progress, like I say. So when I got to the 1st step, my sponsor taught me that it doesn't say anything about drugs. We admitted we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives had become unmanageable. And what I learned in the 1st step was this is addiction to a lifestyle, and that drugs were a big part of that lifestyle. but I took away the drugs. You know, you have a drug crazed maniac, you take away the drugs, and what do you have? You still got the crazed maniac, right? So it's like, just because I put the drugs down, like 80% of my problems went away when I put the drugs down. 80% of my problems went away. The other 20%, they've been kicking my ass for 31 years. That's the stuff of why I have to continue to work. After I work the first 12 steps and 12 traditions, all the other times I've gone through the 12 steps and 12 traditions, it's about life on life's terms. So I learned that addiction is addiction to a lifestyle. And then I learned that powerlessness and unmanageability leaves a void in my spirit, you know, a hole in my heart. Well, how do I fill that? I'll tell you how I fill it. I learned how to fill it in the first tradition. I fill it with all of you, the fellowship, the unity that's called for in the first tradition. It teaches me that I don't have to do this on my own, that I can do it with all of you together, that we are stronger. You know, 1 + 1 + 1 is far greater than 3, right? And so we need to do this together. So that's how the first step and the first tradition go hand in hand. First, there's this void, powerlessness and unmanageability. And then over in the first tradition, there's this, guess what? You don't got to do it alone. You're never alone, never again. That's what NA is all about. NA, never alone, never again, you know? So it's like, I have this first step, but I answer it with this first tradition. I don't have to do it alone, which takes me to the second step. My sponsor's on this Zoom call too, and he probably doesn't remember telling me this, but he gave me a pass when I worked the second step the first time. I said, Dave, it says, you know, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I said, Dave, I'm not insane. He said, no. I said, no, I'm not insane. Because I thought insane people were like the guys in the straitjackets, you know, like in the rubber rooms. I didn't know what insane was. He said, all right. He said, well, just for you, Chris, I'll make an exception. See, I love those exceptions, right? I got an exception in the rehab where they didn't give me my medallion. Now my sponsor gives me an exception. He said, change the word sanity to healthy thinking. Oh, okay. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to healthy thinking. I thought, okay, I can do that. Well, then when I started writing on it, I just saw how crazy I was, how totally insane I was. As an example, maybe driving a car that's not registered or insured with no plates, that might not be a good idea. That might be insane to go across state lines, like down to Kentucky, in a car that's not registered or insured or plated, and not think anything of it. Just do it because that's how you do it. I was totally insane. But what I learned in the second tradition was that there's an ultimate authority in charge, and I need to trust the process. That's the second tradition. So how it goes with the second step is that if I'm totally insane over here, but I know that there's something else in charge, the ultimate authority, as we talk about in our second tradition, then I need to trust the process. Which leads me to the third step, where we make a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. Now, my higher power is too awesome to have a gender, but I read the step as the way it is written. I will say the word him because that's how the step is written. But my higher power isn't a guy or a girl. It's a power greater than myself. It's a spirit. But I respect Narcotics Anonymous, and I respect the decision that the program has made. So I read the readings as the way that they are written. I don't change it. Maybe you call me a stickler for that, but that's who I am. And I'm offended when people change the readings to suit their own needs. If you want to do it to yourself with your own support group and your own sponsor, great, go for it. But when you're in a meeting, when I'm in a meeting, I respect Narcotics Anonymous. I respect the traditions and I respect the steps. I read them as they're printed. So I made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood him. Now, in the third tradition, I learned about the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop using. Over the years, I've had to kind of add to that, a desire to stop using people, places, things, situations, right? But it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. What comes first? Does the desire to make a decision come first, or do I decide to have a desire? I don't really know. I haven't figured that out in all my time in recovery. But I can tell you this, that, you know, I have to have desire to make a decision. I have to make a decision to try to have desire. And so there's the relationship between 3 and 3. And then when I get to the 4th step, which is like this step that everyone has all this anxiety over, man, the 4th step is nothing. Wait till you get to 6 and 7. That's a whole different world, 6 and 7. But when you get to 4 and you're new, you know, I always say we write to get right, you know, but it's the first real time that, you know, you have this whole idea of intimacy. And I always say intimacy is into me, I see. I have to like unpack this trauma. You know, I talked about racial trauma before. Talked about racial trauma in the back of the cop car. Do you know I had less than a year clean when I was out in San Diego and I went to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting? I was in a church in the basement and there were 3 skinheads that walked into the meeting. I was the only person of color sitting at the table. And the 3 skinheads looked at me during that meeting. And I'll never forget when they shared, you know, I like being in recovery. I like being clean, but I just can't get with niggers. I just can't do it. This is what they were sharing in a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. And then the one guy kicked his foot up on, you can't see me kicking my foot up. He kicked a foot up on his chair and he had the red laces in one of his combat boots. You know what the red laces mean? It means that you've shed the blood of a black man. This is in a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. So I've seen a lot in NA over my years. Want to talk about racial trauma, you know? Sometimes I think we have 2 different fellowships. We have black meetings and white meetings, black conventions and white conventions. You know, we're all one. This disease is going to take us out regardless of age, race, sexual identity, creed, religion, lack of religion. We are one. But we have to act like it. You know, we have to act like it. I work in public health. It broke my heart to see a simple thing like a mask get politicized and weaponized. I'm not going to go down that road because I know I'm going to lose half of you, because that's how we are. We're a divided nation and we have a singleness of purpose in Narcotics Anonymous. A singleness of purpose. So I'm not going to go there, but I'm going to tell you that I've lost too many people. I've lost too many people. So that 4th step, you know, it's a junk drawer. It's that junk drawer upstairs. We all have them. It's got rubber bands, paper clips, scissors, playing cards, all that shit in there. And you're looking for something and you can't find it. And one day you just pull the junk drawer out and you walk over to your bed and you flip it over and you dump it out and then you start putting everything back. The same stuff, all that junk has a place in the drawer. You start putting it back and you put the playing cards up here and a little cup of the paper clips down there and you make it all neat, right? And you slide it in, looks all neat. It's still junk, but you slide it in. And then if you're like me, you go back there a couple times later that day and just pull it open and look at it. Just admire it. Just look at it. You didn't even need anything out of there. That's what the 4th step is. It's our junk drawer. It's our internal junk drawer. We got to clean it, replace it, move stuff around, make it neat. But guess what happens? That junk drawer becomes junky again. That's why this stuff never ends. It's a process. It's an ongoing process. You know, I always say we're stuck in the past because the past is stuck in us. So it's time to get rid of that past stuff. You know, the God of my understanding, it's one that I don't understand and I don't need to. I just need to accept. I just need to move on. Act as if, as I learned in the 2nd step. You know, I say the 4 T's of recovery: tears, talking, trust, and time. Tears, talking, trust, and time. That sums up my recovery. Tears, talking, trust, and time. If I remember those, I'm in good shape. So I get to the 4th tradition and I learn about autonomy. Autonomy is self-governance. The reason why I did what I did in the 4th step is because I had no governor. I did what I wanted, when I wanted to do it, to who I wanted to do it to, regardless of who it hurt. That's total self-centeredness. So I had to learn how to have some self-governance. When I have some self-governance, I don't create more 4-step stuff for the next go around. Practice some discipline. So in the 5th step, it's all about why I did what I did, right? You know, because in the 4th step, it's what I did. In the 5th step, it's why, right? I learned patterns because I admit to God, to myself, and to another human being. In that order, by the way, when I got done writing my, what I thought was, you know, like at least a B-level movie, my sponsor said, okay, go read it. Read it to your higher power. I said, what does that mean? He said, read it to your higher power. Each night, read a couple pages. I said, okay. I got done with that. I said, all right, Dave, I'm ready to go over it. He said, okay, now what I want you to do is go read it to yourself in front of the mirror. What is that? Why would you have me do that? Just trust the process, he said. So I went home and I read a sentence and I looked at myself in the mirror. I read a sentence and I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm telling you, when I finished that whole book that I wrote and it came time to sit down with Dave, my sponsor, and go over it, it wasn't as big of a deal. I'd already talked about it with myself and my higher power. The process of accepting all that drama was okay. Admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrong. And then in the fifth tradition, I learned that each group has but one primary purpose. See, now that I've cleaned out the junk drawer, I'm actually able to carry the message, to carry the message to the addict who still suffers. That's our primary purpose. But you can't carry the message when your junk drawer is all messed up. So I clean out that junk drawer. I learn about some autonomy. I learn about patterns, and then I'm able to carry the message. Right? That's how 5 and 5 relate to one another. So then I get to 6. So if 4 is what I did, and 5 is why I did it, then 6 is how I did it, right? Because how I did it is all about my defects of character. Made a list of all of our defects of character. These defects of character. I was in London, England, when I heard a newcomer share. He had like 63 days or something like that. He said, I know the most important step in the 6th step. I was like, oh, here's some newcomer going to tell me something, right? Closed-minded. I already judged him because he said he had 63 days, so I knew he had nothing to tell me, right? My self-centered ass. He said, the most important word in the 6th step is these. I said, get out of here, newcomer. What are you trying to, who is there? I didn't even know there was a definition of the word these. Literally, I never knew there was a definition. So he said, yeah, I looked it up. My sponsor told me to look it up. Do you know, he said, the definition of the word these is the next one in time or space. I said, get the fuck out of here, newcomer. Look at that shit. I learned something today because I had a little bit of an open mind. Do you know these, the next one in time and space, these defects of character, these ones right here, right in front of me, the next one in time and space. But I do this. What? What did you say? What did you say? I don't want to look at the defect right here, staring me right in the face. I don't want to look at that. These defects of character, meaning the ones that I'm dealing with now. I got to deal with that. So, and by the way, you want to talk about the relationship between 6 and 6? I have yet to meet a defect of character that does not have something to do with money, property, or prestige. I can relate every one of my defects of character back to money, property, or prestige. It's easy for me to see the relationship between 6 and 6 when I relate it like that. So, listen, my disease wants me dead. My disease, I learned, is made up of obsession and compulsion. It says in our text, obsession is that fixed idea that takes us back time and time again to using that person, what does it say? That person, fix, pill, drink, drug, knowing that only physical and mental harm comes when we use it. That's obsession. Then it says compulsion is defined as once having started that behavior, not being able to stop on my own. Obsession and compulsion go hand in hand. Once obsession kicks in for me, guys, it's over. Because compulsion is right behind it. There is just this much between obsession and compulsion. You know what this much is? That's a New York second. That's enough time to say, God, please help. See, now I have enough recovery in me when I know an obsession kicks in. It changes the way I feel. It is literally intoxicating when obsession kicks in. And it's a scary, scary time for me. God, please help. My sponsor told me early on, Chris, if you don't like the way you're feeling, stop doing what you're doing. Sounds really simple, right? Sounds simple until you have to do it. Stop doing what you're doing. Stop acting out on your addiction. Very, very hard. I remember Dennis P. saying from the Marietta area once, he said in a meeting, I'll never forget it. We were talking about 6 and 7, and he said, the object in the mirror is much dumber than they appear. You know that little thing down in your rearview mirror? I'll never forget Dennis for saying that. The object in the mirror is much dumber than they appear. I don't know what I don't know, But So 6 is defects of character, right? 7 is about shortcomings. A shortcoming, I learned, is acting out on a defect of character. So for instance, the defect is being a thief. The shortcoming is stealing. I'll always be a thief, but if I don't steal today, I'm not acting out on that defect of character. See, my defects of character are part of my DNA. And frankly, my defects of character, some of them, they kept me alive in the streets. I literally have spider senses that tingle. I went to places where I knew I shouldn't have maybe walked out of there alive. I mean, guns sitting right out on the table. I used to stick my money in a hole through a door on the hope that they would put something out. And then I get to a step and I say, I'm not sure that I can really trust that. I mean, can you imagine the insanity? I can't trust a spiritual principle of a step, but I can put my money through the hole of a door on the hope that they'll throw something back out the other side. That's the insanity of the disease of addiction. So shortcomings is acting out on the defects. But in the 7th tradition, everyone loves talking about the basket. Man, the 7th tradition says we were fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. I'm fully self-supporting to take responsibility for myself. As an old-timer, I have to hold myself up to a higher standard. I am responsible to Narcotics Anonymous. I represent a person in long-term recovery when I go out in the public. I have to hold myself to a higher standard. I owe that to Narcotics Anonymous. We say productive member of society. It means don't act a damn fool. That's what it means to me. Act like you have some sense. Act as if. And so I do as best I can. But I have to, but I'm responsible for that. That's what I learned in the 7th tradition. I'm responsible for myself. 8 and 9, kind of go together. I'll just say this about 8 and 9. We make lists, clean, and they're far more difficult to make than any list using. My first list was easy. I screwed you over because I was using, I lied to you, I cheated, I stole, all that stuff. The second list, the third, those are the ones that hurt. I did this with 3 years clean. I did this with 13 years clean. I did this with 27 years clean. Fully responsible for my actions. Learned that in the 7th tradition. Carried that right into 8 and 9. I learned to take responsibility for my behavior. You need that to get into 8 and 9. So then I get to 10. 10 is that opportunity for reprieve. 10 is that opportunity so you don't have to do a bunch of 4s all the time. You can promptly admit it. Promptly admit when you're wrong. And by the way, there's a big difference between saying I'm sorry versus saying I was wrong. And if you don't think, next time you're going to apologize, say I was wrong versus saying I'm sorry. It's easy to say I'm sorry. We grow up saying I'm sorry. We grow up saying, oh, I'm sorry, sorry about that, sorry for this, sorry for that. It's like the serenity prayer in meetings. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot. If you break down the 25 words in the serenity prayer, those are some powerful words. Think about what you're asking. It's a huge asking. Sorry is just another word. Saying you're wrong and accepting and admitting and owning your behavior, it's a different word, it's a different meaning. It's difficult. I mean, my experience is it's difficult. That's my experience. But I learned that, this is a continuation, right? This process of recovery. There's no graduation here. It's only continuation. And then when I get to 11, I learned that 11 is all about, prayer and meditation, right? So prayer is asking and meditation is listening. But it says, about knowledge. It says praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Now that word "and" is very important because when I grew up, my dad always used to tell me, Chris, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. But in the 11th step, what I learned was it's knowledge and power. If I simply just have the knowledge of my higher power's will for me, that's not enough. I need the power to carry that out. So just having the knowledge in and of itself isn't enough. I have to actually have the power, make the decision. These are all in the steps before. I learned about decision in the 3rd step. right? I apply these principles in all my affairs. This builds, each one builds on the next. They're in order for a reason. If they weren't, they would just say, here are 12 steps, work them any way you want. One only works at the beginning, and then you get to, that's me telling myself that I got to wind it down. And dismiss, thank you. So it only works, you know, as I build off the one previous. And my sponsor always used to tell me, if I'd have a trouble with like a step or tradition that I'm on, go back to the previous one. Let's rework that until it feels good. So when you make it to the next step, it feels like it works, right? So each one builds on the next. But, you know, I will say this, you know, prayer is like sex, right? Doesn't really matter the position that you're in as long as there's contact. So I don't pray on my knees. For me, many of you might. That's great. My experience is I don't pray on my knees. I have an ongoing conversation with my higher power. My higher power is with me all the time, everywhere. I went out this morning on a 3-mile walk and I just talked to my higher power. It was just me and my higher power talking. And that's okay. So when I got to 12, it says, we tried to carry this message and practice these principles in all our affairs. There's that word these again, these principles. Which principles? Which steps are you going to carry in all your affairs? What step do you need to apply to this situation? That's that word these, right? But this message, it's not my message. It's the message that I learned in the previous 11 steps and 11 traditions. That's what the message is, right? So I have to carry these principles, practice these principles in all of my affairs. And anonymity in the 12th tradition, I'm going to talk about anonymity for a minute because you heard me at the beginning say my name is Chris Thrasher. That's my name, Chris Thrasher. I'm not anonymous. I think anonymity is frankly killing us. I know that stigma, it's a big word, and it means that people don't understand addiction. And I never have still understood in 31 years why we don't take on stigma directly. What do I mean by that? I mean that my last name is important because I'm a person in long-term recovery. When I was using, they wrote my first and last name in the paper under the police blotter. They said, Christian Thrasher has 4 felonies and 3 misdemeanors, and they listed what I did. Then I get clean, I come into recovery, and I say, shh, don't tell anyone my name. What am I? Now, listen, I get it. I don't represent Narcotics Anonymous. So when I go out in public, I don't talk about my affiliation with NA. But I do talk about my affiliation with being in recovery. I am a person in long-term recovery. We recover. It says we do recover. You know, that old lie that says once an addict, always an addict will no longer be tolerated by society or the addict himself. We do recover. Well, if it's not tolerated by me, then I need to put myself out there. Yes, I'm a person in recovery. Yes, my last name is Thrasher, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of being in recovery. So anonymity for me isn't about my last name. Here's what anonymity means to me. It means that if you're homeless, a doctor, a preacher, a lawyer, whoever, what color you are, what your sexual orientation is, what gender you are, I don't care about any of that. All I care about is what you want to do about your problem and how we can help. That's what anonymity means to me. Anonymity is about not judging. Anonymity is about hearing the message and not the messenger. My last name has nothing to do with anonymity. It's not about my last name. It's about not knowing what I do. I'll tell you what I do. I work for a former president of the United States. I told you I went from the crack house to the White House. But that's my gig, and that's not, you know, that doesn't mean that if you stay clean, you'll go do that. Maybe a lot of you don't want to do that. That's great. I didn't think I'd ever want to do it. I was a freaking high school dropout. You would have told me, yeah, you'll go to the White House someday. I'd be like, yeah, give me another hit. That was good, you know. So, you know, I believe that if we practice anonymity, true anonymity, that principles will happen before personalities. Just it will happen. So, my higher power brought me to NA. I believe that. But NA brought me to my higher power, And I know that. I mean, I think that our slogans, like all the slogans that you hear in meetings, I think they're spiritual interventions in the time of need. Because think about it. How many times does someone throw a slogan at you at just the right time that says just the right thing? It's like a spiritual intervention in my time of need. Now, I'm going to talk about two more things and then I'm winding it down. One is the 13th step. Man, there's nothing more that irritates me than the 13th step, because there is no such thing as the 13th step. It needs to be called the 0 step, because 13 is after 12. And if you've worked all 12 steps, you have no fucking business fucking a newcomer. And I say that with the emphasis that I said it, because I've watched people die. Newcomers that come in that people with time prey upon. They're cute, they're young, whatever they are, they're newcomers. Let the newcomer recover. Give them a chance. Keep it in your pants. Give the newcomer a chance. It's not 13 stepping, it's 0 stepping. So this mom and this boy go to the guru. This boy's overweight, little fat boy, or as we say now, obese. And she goes to the guru and she says, "Guru, tell my boy to stop eating sugar. It's killing him." And the guru says, "Come back in 3 days." And the mother looks at the guru, puzzled. And he said, "Come back in 3 days." So the mom and boy leave, and 3 days later comes back and says, "Guru, tell my son to stop eating sugar. It's killing him." And the guru looked at the boy intently in the eyes and said, "Son, stop eating sugar. It's killing you." And the mother looked at the guru all puzzled and said, "Guru, why didn't you just say that to my boy 3 days ago?" And the guru looked at the mother and said, "Because first I had to stop eating sugar." And why I share that story is because I set up a lot of stuff here. And I'm telling you that I practice what I preach. I hold myself to a higher standard. I'm not a model recovering addict. I fuck up just like everybody else. I make mistakes just like everybody else, but I hold myself to a standard. So as a sponsor, I'm not going to tell you what to do if I'm not doing it my damn self. Right? The guru had to stop eating sugar first before he could tell the boy to stop eating sugar. As a sponsor, I need to stop doing what I'm doing before I'm going to tell you to stop doing what you're doing. I don't say don't fuck newcomers because I'm out fucking newcomers. I have yet to fuck a newcomer, and I have 31 and a half years clean. Period. End of story. Leave the newcomer alone. I'm going to end with a poem that I often end with that is very meaningful to me, and I want to share it with all of you this morning. It says that it must be borne in mind that the tragedy of life doesn't lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in having no goal to reach. It isn't a calamity to die with dreams unfulfilled, but it is a calamity not to dream. It's not a disaster to be unable to capture your ideal, but it is a disaster to have no ideal to capture. It's not a disgrace not to reach the stars, but it is a disgrace to have no stars to reach for. Not failure, but low aim is sin. So aim high. Recovery is out there. The world is your oyster. Live your best life. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do anything. We need to come together, black and white, and all points in between, all genders, all sexual orientations need to come together as one. And so I want to thank once again the convention committee for asking me to share my hope, strength, and experience. That's just another pet peeve of mine because I think I got hope first, then strength, then experience. And thank everyone for coming here. Sonia, I saw from Germany. I mean, this is now an international meeting. We have someone from Germany. But thank you. Thank you, because Narcotics Anonymous saved my life. And if I said anything this morning that might help you or your loved ones, then that's just gravy. That's a bonus. So with that, I will say once again, my name is Chris Thrasher. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I'm not afraid of hiding it. Thank you for letting me share with all of you today.
Ooh, yes. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, thank you. Intercessor, well delivered.
That's awesome.
Well delivered.
Good job, Chris.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you. Much love and appreciation. Thank you. Yes. Wow, for your
Love you guys.
heartwarming
Great
experience.
rest of the day.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Powerful message, Chris. Thank you.
Walk you the rest of my journey of recovery. You the bum diggity.
Great job.
Thank you, Chris.
Great job.
So much.
So nice to meet you, Christy.
Amazing, amazing, amazing.
Yeah, thanks for being
You
here.
doing good.
That was fun.
Thanks, Chris T.
Thanks for filling my spirit, Chris. Thanks for feeding my spirit.
Yeah, man. You want to get my basic text and start reading it.
Now we gotta go do this. Let's do this.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you, Chris.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Wonderful.
I would like to thank Chris T. I'd like to thank our speaker, Chris Thrasher, and thank everyone for their participation, not only for this meeting, but also the entire weekend. Let's close with a moment of silence, followed by the we version of the Serenity Prayer. God,
Grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, courage to change the things that we can, wisdom to know the difference. New possibilities arise.
I mean, yes.
Thank you, Gretna. Thank you, Gretna.
Good weekend, good message, delivers off the convention. We done the thing. God, thank you.
Great
For using us that you did for this plan to topping for the weekend.
Thank you, Laura.
The icing of the weekend. Thank you, young man, for sharing your experience. Ooh-wee.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, ooh-wee.
Chris, that was masterfully communicated. I love you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Somebody said, ooh-wee.
Ooh-wee. Yes.
Has been awesome as well. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Gregna. Thank you, Gregna.
To me, man.
Thank you, Gregna.
Oh, I done found my husband. Good God Almighty. Thank you for sharing, baby. I just love my sense of humor, baby. Thank you for sharing.
Chris, are you a motivational speaker?
I can't. What?
Are you a motivational speaker?
No, I'm not.
Outside of NA, I mean.
Motivated me.
Yeah.
You are motivational speaker, Chris.
Yeah. No.
Hey, he's working on modesty, but that you can't be a master communicator. You just try to be modest.
Great job, Chris. Thank you.
I love you, dude. I love you so much, man.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Chris.
got chills.
Thank you, guys.
Both of you. Thank
I
all
love
the
this
speakers.
committee.
The truth is that I learned how to publicly speak in Narcotics Anonymous. So,
All right.
you know.
Hey, Chris, can you put your number in the chat? We might want to ask you to come speak at some of our events. some of our speaker jams or something.
This is my future wife. Is that coming from my future wife?
No. She
Chris, it's coming from your other future wife. Your
All
other
right.
don't trust her. Don't give her your number. I swear I don't trust her. She took my last man.
This
She
from
took
your
my last
second.
man.
Look,
And-
hey Chris. My name is Linda Black. I can tell you my whole name. I need your number.
Okay, my name is Zena Hooker.
Hey,
You
Chris,
gonna
Myra
stick with
just
me?
dumped me. Myra just
Hey,
dumped me
Gina
right
is
in
a
front
hooker.
of
What you say?
My last name is
Dump me
Hooker.
like that.
My last name is Zena Hooker. That's my baby daddy.
They
Leave
say
my
Gina is a hooker.
How many wives is Chris gonna have?
She said we ain't looking like that today, but she gonna hook him.
Hey, he said he was an open man. He said he was a Narcotics Anonymous man, and he was
But
open.
thank you, Chris. That is my last name, though, Chris. I ain't being foul or disrespectful.
Chris, they're waiting in line for you.
Yeah.
Evidently.
Hey, listen. Yeah, okay. I got it, Chris.
Is that a mark saying they waiting in line?
Chris, are you
Hey, Chris, from the White House to my house.
Wow.
There you go. There you go, Reggie.
Boy, that was a good come up. I'm surprised
That
I
was
ain't come
good.
up with that. That was
We
smart,
want to take
Jay.
him home now. We want to take him home to mama.
I'm going, yeah, my mom bounced right at the end of this meeting. I'm gonna have to call her and make sure she's okay.
They know, hey, Chris, they know
I
who your boss
apologize,
is.
Moms.
Hey, maybe they think you're like your boss.
my mom hasn't heard the crack story in Niagara Falls. That was the first time she heard that one. Oh no, there she's still on. My mom is still on. I don't know if she can hear me, but
Hey,
yeah.
Mom,
Hey,
we
look, Chris,
support you.
Mom,
Thank you for
she
your
tough enough to
son.
take it, baby.
Love
She tough enough to take it.
Chris, you best believe, baby, your mom is proud of you. Our moms put those
Uh-huh.
things so far behind us when we recover, because we do recover.
Yes.
That's
They
right.
get to sleep well at night. They get to watch a whole lot of us glow and grow.
Can
Yeah.
we ask your mom now if she's proud? What a good job she
That's
did.
it. Put
If she's
her
proud
on the
of herself.
spot.
You know, of course we can. The issue is, does she know how to unmute herself and all that stuff? That's,
You gonna walk her through it.
oh yeah. Hi, Mom.
I thought you were gonna make me cry with the judge story.
My mom cried plenty. Mom,
Yeah.
do you know? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I do love my boy, and I am proud of him. He'll never know how proud I am. He's my baby.
Oh, yes.
Aw.
He's cute.
Yes, Peggy. He's your baby.
Love you, Peggy. Hey, Peggy.
Even moms do recover too.
That give me chills.
Good job, Miss Peggy.
Love you, Miss Peggy. Thank you.
Chris.
Y'all have a blessed day.
It's great to see
wonderful
you.
young
Say she
man.
know how to unmute.
Hey,
Zena.
What's up, Chris, thank you for a great message. I really appreciate it. It was really, really good. The way you walk through the steps and traditions. I never heard that take on it before. It was really inspiring.
Oh,
Thank
hey,
you.
Ethan. Yeah. Hey.
How are you?
Good. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. I'd always rather be seen than viewed, you know.
Yeah. That's right.
I learned that
Patrick.
one in Buffalo. I like that.
George, you did a great introduction.
Yes.
There he is. How are you, man?
I still got that coin, brother. I owe you a big thank you for that.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris, I got to run.
Hey, Dave. That's my sponsor. He's the one that knows way too much.
Hi, everybody.
Dave, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job with
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for pouring into him.
Yeah, I got a 12:30 meeting in London. I never miss. And I got to eat.
Meeting in London.
World traveler.
Hey, Chris.
Zooming along, right?
That's right.
Yes.
Love you guys.
I got a word for you.
Yes.
It's called coincidence. And it's
Oh,
the idea that there's never a coincidence. There's always God involved.
Yep. Yep. Coincidence. Coincidences
God.
are God's way of remaining anonymous. Yeah. Love it.
I love that.
You know what, Chris?
So much. This was extraordinary.
You know what, Chris? I remember when we first met. We met at the opioid drug summit a couple years back.
Oh no, I gotta find you who's talking to me so I can see. I can see you.
Joe.
Oh, yeah.
I spotlighted him for you, Chris.
Right
If
here.
you go to speakers, you'll see him
Yeah.
spotlighted.
Oh, if I go to speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Speaker
we,
J,
yeah,
there we go.
yeah. We
Oh,
met at
Joe.
Yeah.
Oh,
we met at
Joe.
the
Yeah,
drug,
hey.
we met at the first met at the heroin and drug summit here.
Oh, the
Hell,
RX Summit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
Yeah, because that's
His hair
when
was
you were
not
working
quite
for that
so white then.
president.
No, he wasn't. The hair was not white.
Oh, that's right. Oh, when President Clinton spoke there.
Right. He spoke. He was a Wednesday night speaker there. Right.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Cut it
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. That's
Hey
why.
guys, that
Yeah.
Joe's hair is what happens when you become facilitator.
This is
right.
No. This
Shoot, he
is
been
six kids
serving all over
and
the-
three
all over our
wives.
Fellowship, man.
I must not have been facilitator too long. Mine still got this pepper in there.
No, six kids. That's what.
It's coming, Jeremy. It's coming.
Jeremy, your hair sunk through your head.
I got some stringy gray in my beard, but not full
You
gray
rock
yet.
your gray. Everybody earned every gray hair.
Yeah, stick in there, Jeremy. When you hit the 60s, this stuff.
And I know what I'm talking
Hey,
about.
Benji.
Fingers crossed I make it, buddy. Fingers crossed I make it.
Benji.
Yes.
All right, Chris, I got your number. I'm going to be calling you for one of our speaker jams. This is Linda, your second wife.
Oh, South Atlanta. You're in South Atlanta.
South Atlanta, yeah, South Atlanta.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for a great convention. I'll see y'all later.
All right,
Bye, Jeremy. Jeremy, when you coming
y'all
back
got
to
some-
Region? I need you back in Region, Jeremy.
Benji, I'm headed down to Miami to go hang with
See y'all
you.
later. See you, George, Jay,
Love
everybody. I'll see y'all. Talk with you later next week.
See you this weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
See y'all next week.
All right.
Thank you for your behind the scenes quietness. You just.
What's your home area?
Tina,
Yes.
I love you,
Patty's
baby.
really
Have a
so
I love you too, Jeremy. So Linda
Patty's
needs you
really
back on
so
Region.
spoken, you all, and she's
Take
trying
care,
to
guys.
talk.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you, George.
Jeremy.
George.
Hey, Josh.
Adam, how
Look
are
at
you?
that pretty face.
Hey,
sitting
Eric.
there.
Hey.
Love you too, Patty.
Good morning.
Where's this convention, Jeremy?
Miss Peggy, love you. Your mom's gone.
Eric, what's going on?
Oh,
What's
hey,
your home area?
sitting here getting my spirit fed, listening to the man.
That's right. That's right.
I appreciate you, my brother.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Appreciate you. Hey,
What part of Georgia this convention in? Hey, Chris.
Yes.
What part of Georgia is this convention in?
I'm in the Marietta
Region.
area. My home
okay.
group is just for Sunday that meets at the exact same time that this meeting was at Ridgeview, but we're all virtual now.
Oh, I had my brother up there.
Okay. I took your number. I'll text you to get the information if you don't mind.
I'm gonna put up the 124-607-105. That is the best home group in the world. You come in there at 10:30 in the morning every Sunday, and that's where we hang. 124-607-105 with no password. So
Oh,
Okay, thank
Chris, I'm slow. Do me again.
it's in the chat. 124-607-105. No password.
Every
Well, I'm
Sunday
in
at
Boston.
10:30.
Eric,
10:30 to 12. 10:30
That's
to
Eastern
11:45.
Standard Time, correct?
you know it's
Yes.
impossible to think of Chris T without thinking of you.
Oh. Is that a compliment or an insult?
It's a fact.
I gotta figure out how I'm gonna take
All right,
that.
love y'all, family. Be blessed.
No, I hear you.
Thank
Have a
y'all
good
for
one,
an
fam.
awesome convention.
Yeah,
Thank
Gretna,
you,
you did a
Zena.
great job. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you really touched me in a lot of areas, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Patty.
You carried the message for sure.
Thank you.
It was good to see your mom too.
Yeah, I thought she bounced, but she was still there. Yeah, I know it's hard to share that story, and I'm sure it's a bit hard for her to hear it again because it sort of re-traumatizes, I'm sure. I'll never forget that night, though, that the judge was just calling her out in the middle of the courtroom. You know what I realized just now? Remember how I started the Hope with H? I never went back to O, P, or E. I left. But I'll tell you the O is for opportunity, the P is for power, or as in like higher power, and the E is for education. So that's my hope. But I that's my ADD is what that really is,
Thank you
because
for that. I wasn't going to call you out on it, but thanks.
it's not the first time I've done that. I just run off somewhere wherever I go and never come back. So
Squirrel.
Anyway.
Can you say what you said about these again?
Thank you.
These, the next one in time or space.
Adam, good to see you, man. Adam L.
Hey, is that Eric?
Yeah, what's
Oh,
up,
baby,
man?
I saw you down there. How you doing, man?
I'm
Hey, Adam. It's good
Hey man, you all missed Adam's debut as a comedian last night. He did like a 10-minute set. It was great.
Wow, I
The
didn't know
Zoom
that.
debut, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, it was good
thanks
stuff.
for being there, Chris.
Absolutely.
You were great today, Chris.
Well, thank you. I loved watching you last night.
Thanks,
What's up,
man.
Eric?
Appreciate it.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Jeremy,
Sorry,
up
I
and
missed
coming.
that, Adam. Wow.
Still talking to Randy?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I talked to him.
we're brothers for life. That's not that. I said we're brothers for life.
Same here. Yeah, good, man. It's good to see you, man.
Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, Teresa.
Jeremy, it is good to see you. You never did answer Linda when she asked when were you coming back.
Yeah.
The answers I don't know.
Okay. Well, don't make me have to put on my CDC gear and come and get you.
All right, I won't.
I love y'all. I gotta run.
Bye, Eric.
All right, see you. Eric, are we getting together today?
Oh shit. Yeah. Yeah, of course we're getting together today.
Okay. All right. Yes,
It's
before
amazing.
your whole 30.
Huh?
Before your whole 30. Yeah, we'll meet over here at some time this afternoon. I'll give you a call.
Yeah, I'll give you a call, man. I should be done with Michael. Shit. 4 o'clock?
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right. Love you.
Chris.
Bye.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Teresa.
Yeah.
Give me a call.
Well, Chris, thanks. I don't know if you can hear me, but my laptop's acting up.
Okay.
I can hear you perfectly. Thank you,
Oh,
Billy. I'm
good.
glad you got it working.
Yeah, it's not working anymore. I can hear you, but not see you. But thank you so much, Chris. I'm gonna sign off.
Oh, we can see you. I can see you.
You look great.
I
Yeah.
can't see anything.
Oh,
Look
wow.
great.
Yeah.
I'm glad I made it through, though. I made it all the way through until now.
It is a little weird. I will say this. It's a little weird, like only looking at like 6 faces and not hearing anything, just talking quietly in your own room. It's a bit bizarre. But, you know, I don't know. It's weird.
Chris, don't even try because you did a good job.
You did a wonderful job.
Don't even try. Don't go there.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Lawanda.
You welcome.
I appreciate your vote of confidence.
And you really did do a good job. You did such a great job. You might have some more work at hand.
There you go.
We'll talk about that on another day because I see you're gonna get together with Eric and a few others this evening.
Yeah, but you have my number now.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I do have it now, but I had it
Here we
before.
are.
Oh, okay.
Because we were supposed to try to work on
Yeah. The book.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I
Yes.
know. See, I don't see your face now. I know exactly who I'm talking to.
Yeah. So I've been putting the information out there though, in regards to the book.
Yeah. Oh, it's
So
great to-
hopefully some new people will attend, but I'm gonna set aside some time, or you set aside some time. The initial call, if it's not a good time, then we'll just at that time schedule to set aside some time.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Good to reconnect, Lawanda. We'll talk soon.
Okay, and everybody on this platform, if nobody told you today, and in the voice of Ty East from the West End, there isn't a thing you can do about it. And I mean that.
You know, I heard once, if no one told you they love you today, call your sponsor.
Well, it depends on where you and your sponsor at that day. You still might not get a I love you.
Right, but at least you could talk about it with them.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Love you, Lawanda.
I love you too. I miss you all. I really, really, I do. I miss you all a lot. More do you know, although I will be on screen next week, but I'm not showing up.
That's okay. Your
Yeah,
energy
I'm-
comes across.
All right.
We'll see you next weekend.
Thanks, Chris. I'm gonna go now.
All right, Billy, we'll
Y'all
talk
have a
soon.
beautiful day. It was a good experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
But let me say, you all, the committee, you all did a wonderful job. You all did a wonderful job. The end results is truly what counts, but the in-between parts, I know y'all are gonna handle that too. But the presentation to the people you all was wonderful. People were talking about it all up the East Coast that I shared the information with, how well together this was put together.
Thank you, Lawan. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you,
Yeah, I
Lord. We
shared
love
this
you.
with my
I love y'all too.
home groups. My home group is in California, even though I'm not. And I shared with them, and I've seen one or two of them pop in here, and my friends from Miami. It's been real good.
It is. How do you feel today, Patty? What's going on?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. It was Jeff the other night. It wasn't me.
Okay.
How's he doing this morning?
He's doing good. He is doing good. Yeah, he's washing the car. Don't you know, to him it's like meditation. It must be stop, Tiger. It must be a guy.
For me, it's cutting the grass,
All I
Patty.
want to do is wash the car.
For me, it's cutting grass, Patty. I need to get out there and cut the grass just so.
Yeah, I can get into some yard work and meditate.
Yeah.
Walking the puppies, meditate.
Yeah, he just, you know, he loves tinkering and you know, taking care of his cars or our cars, because he's working on my car today.
Chris, when I heard your speaker CD, I thought, I've heard this guy somewhere. And George says, yeah, that was recording. That is a recording from Frickna.
Oh, yeah.
I said, well, that's what I heard in my, I was at this convention.
Yeah, Frickna. But you're in South Carolina?
Right, yeah.
Whereabouts?
Aiken, right outside of Augusta.
Yeah, we're right beside Augusta, Georgia, right across the state line. So
Okay.
Yeah, they're part of our region.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Are they really? He ain't been living in Macon.
Yeah,
would that be like extreme north, or where? What would that be? What area?
Central Savannah River.
Oh, okay. So you just, I mean, the border is like right there then.
Oh yeah. Augusta. The convention, had we had it face to face this year, the hotel is 25 miles from me.
Oh wow. Okay. Cool.
Could have just took your computer and went there and sat if you needed to.
Yeah.
So then when I head down to the Masters, I have a spare room at your house to stay in? That's the real question, Mike.
Absolutely.
Road trip.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll get up every morning and feed you and the puppies.
Don't mix their food up.
Yes.
When does your home group meet?
Right at this very time, at 10:30 in the morning to 11:45 on Sunday mornings.
On Sundays only. Thank you, sir.
Only on Sundays, yeah. Just for Sunday, it's called.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, my dog is telling me he needs to go out, and he's old. He's older than me.
I guess we can shut it down, my friends.
I guess I better let him out. Chris, again, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Patty. Patty, where are you located?
Brunswick.
Oh, Brunswick, Georgia. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Look, you got all your master admins in here too. Look, there's the pyramid.
Oh, that's it. All this is the whole committee, huh? Right
Well,
here.
yeah, George, Mike, Jay. Well, there's 4 of us, Master Act. Everybody is
Not the
helpful.
whole
And
committee.
I would like to especially thank
There
y'all
were
for
probably-
approving me as host today.
There were probably 30-something people on the committee making this happen this year.
Oh, well, thank you. Hey, I couldn't tell because I was only looking at that little screen, but were there any Zoom bombers that came in today or no?
Not
It
today.
didn't seem like today.
Not today. We had a few yesterday.
Yeah, well, they came in the women's meeting yesterday.
Oh, I thought it was just,
LGBT meeting
I
too.
thought they were just getting LGBT.
Both women's and LGBTQ.
Yeah, I thought it was hateful, but maybe it's just random.
It
And
happens.
well,
Look,
no matter,
look,
no
we're
matter
used- we're
whether
used
it's
to the
random or not,
hatefulness.
it's hateful and distasteful.
That's all right. We tossed our ass faster than they came in.
Yeah.
That's good.
Y'all take care. It's good to see you.
All right.
GD.
Thank you again for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
We love you, Chris.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
All right.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Love you all.
Appreciate it.